All right, next I'd like to acquaint the user with the settings menus on our new Icon 9420. To access the settings, simply press the settings button at the bottom of the main screen. The product will prompt you to key in your user login information in order to access the setup modes. However, if you've not created users on your Icon, there will be a skip login button allowing you to access the setup mode without having to key anything in. Once you've configured users, though, you will have to key in or scan a barcode and a password in order to access the settings menus. Overview of the settings menus. On the left-hand side, we have the various settings parameters, and you can just swipe up and down to see the full list of different settings menus. And when you've selected one of those menus, you can see the choices listed on the right-hand side that pertain to that particular settings menu. So if you select one of the menus, then when you select the specific parameter on the right-hand side, you'll see the choices show up where you can select one of those and change the current settings for that particular parameter. Then when you're all done, when you hit exit, it's going to ask you if you want to save the changes if you've made any changes to the settings menu. So if I hit yes, then it's going to go ahead and save those changes and leave the settings. If I hit no, it's going to lose the changes I made, and if I hit cancel, it allows me to stay in the settings menu and finish the settings changes that I wanted to complete. Next, I'd like to go over the first settings parameter group. So the first group is called the General tab, and the first item on that group is called the About tab. So the About tab gives you an overview of various aspects of the product, such as the Windows operating system, the build version, the applications build, time and date, the serial number of the product, the part number of the icon, and the serial number of the camera and some other components within the product, and the Metaspan data's expiration date. And if you swipe up, you can see additional data. So if you want, you can press the View EULA and it shows you the end user license agreement. Press OK and press OK again to exit that. So the next item on the General tab is your Auto Close. What that does is when you press the Finish button or Scan Out, if you've got that enabled, a prompt appears briefly that says Transaction Recorded. If you disable that, a different message appears warning you to make sure you dispense all the pills out of the funnel back to the stock bottle before tilting your tray, and then make sure when you tilt your tray to get all the pills into the vial. Just a little reminder, it takes an extra step. You have to click OK afterwards in order to close that menu. But some people prefer to have that extra warning in front of their operators to help ensure that they're using the product properly. Drug substitution. So there's three choices here. Disabled means the product scanned must match exactly what the prescription label calls for. That's the default on the product, but the next choice is package size. So if you select package size, if you scanned a different size stock item than the one that was prescribed, it'll give you a warning, but it will allow you to proceed with dispensing if you choose yes, you do want to make the substitution. For example, if I write a prescription for a 100 count bottle of aspirin and I scan a 350 count bottle to do the dispense, a warning would pop up and say, do you want to use this alternate size stock bottle? So if you allow for that, then those warnings will pop up. If you don't, it'll just prevent you from using the alternate size bottle. The next choice in that parameter is the equivalent drug. So that's allowing for generic equivalence. If you allow for that, then when you scan a different drug number, even though it's not the same drug number, if it is an equivalent drug, it will give you a warning and say it's not the exact NDC that was adjudicated, but it is equivalent, and it'll allow you to do the substitution if you choose. If you hit yes, then it will proceed to the count mode and dispense the alternate drug number that you've scanned. The next parameter is the stock item verification. The default is always. That means it will prompt you to scan that stock item after scanning your prescription label. The alternatives are never. The only time I would recommend using never is if you're doing the scan on your pharmacy system and you're just using the icon to do the count only. So you've already validated you're dispensing the right drug, and if your icon is right next to the station where you've done that validation, so there's absolutely no chance of the bottles being switched in between that scan and doing the counting. For some users, that is a preferred mode of operation, and we allow for that. The third choice on the menu is user. Where that comes in handy is when you're double counting the output of a robotically filled vial. So many pharmacies also have a robot for filling the top 50 to 200 drugs that are dispensed in that pharmacy, but they'd still like to use the icon to double count the output, especially for the more expensive pills or the controlled substances. In the past, a lot of them wouldn't put controlled substances in the robot because of the need to make sure that the dispensed quantities are very precise. But with the icon, now they can easily double count the output. So when you select user for the stock item verification, then after scanning the prescription barcode, the icon will bring up the scan stock bottle menu. But there will be an additional button on that menu that will ask the user if allow them to press skip validation in order to skip that step, and it will advance immediately to the count mode. Since the pills are already in the patient vial, there is no stock bottle to scan, so that feature is very useful and necessary in order to allow you to do that double count. Next, we have our underfill and overfill choices. So underfill, some pharmacies only want the technician filling the prescription to fill the exact quantity that the prescription was written for. If they're going to do a short fill, they want to redo the prescription in their system and then send it off to the icon to be filled. If that's the case, then you want to disable your underfills. But many pharmacies want the icon to keep track of a partial fill, so in which case you just leave it enabled like it is by default. And in which case you automatically track the partial fills, and we can remind you when you scan that prescription label later on what the remaining quantity to be filled is. The next parameter is overfills. Now, I'm not sure why anybody want to do an overfill, but naturally the icon will detect it, and so by default we disable it. If you wanted to allow it for some reason, it's possible to do so right here. And calibrate platter. When you select that, it automatically calibrates the platter. Basically, the icon camera takes a picture of the empty tray and uses that as a reference point for future counts, so it knows what an empty tray looks like. If I end up having an object on the tray when I press that, it would give me an error saying it can't calibrate the platter when there's an object on the tray. That completes the explanation of our General tab in the Settings menu.